Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our continuing coverage of E3 2016. My name is Justin McElroy. I'm joined by Russ Frushtick.
Howdy.
Also on the line is Arthur Gies. Arthur, we're going to be talking about Project Scorpio and a lot of other things, Xbox. If you have questions for Arthur, we're streaming live on Facebook, so you can go there, put your questions in, and they'll be sent to us, and we will ask Arthur your questions. Arthur, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Had a lot of conflicting statements heaved in my direction this week, so it's been fun.
Really?
Wow, good. Do tell. Sounds juicy.
For people that are unaware, just so we can hit a baseline, Scorpio, like brass tacks, what is it? If you haven't heard anything yet, what are they doing? What is Microsoft up to?
So Project Scorpio is the code name of a new piece of gaming hardware from Microsoft that is releasing late in 2017. That's as much specificity as we have on a date. Hardware-wise, we have slightly more specificity in that it is a 6 teraflop piece of gaming hardware. What that means is that it is, as we reported on Polygon actually a few weeks back, it is about 450% more powerful than the Xbox One that is in people's homes right now.
Okay, and we don't consider teraflop to be just sort of like a goofball term.
No. I mean, teraflops means something very specific. It's flops stands for floating point math. So video games need to do a lot of floating point math, and so the more that they can do, the better. Mm-hmm. And 6 teraflops is quite powerful.
Still doesn't quite stack up to the Titan, the newest Titan, which I think does like 8.9 teraflops or something.
Right.
Like that.
Well, I mean, like looking at the newest Titan, I think that the price point on that is, I think, 600, which is just for the card. So you look at a video game console, which is a sort of completely self-contained device, and it's hard to make those kinds of comparisons because of the PC. You obviously have a lot more than just the video card needed to run things.
And teraflop's kind of a squishy number anyway, because we're basically talking about a theoretical limit for the hardware versus rating versus actual benchmarks, right?
Well, it's not so much a theoretical limit as it is a hard limit, but the performance is squishy, as you put it, because a lot of it depends on the programming, how optimized a piece of software is for the hardware in question. So sometimes developers can get a lot more out of something that's theoretically rated with much lower performance, and consoles generally are very good at this, in that if they are a piece of fixed hardware, then developers know what that thing can do, and they can sort of make projections and targets in their work as to what that console can do. It can get more out of it, and whereas a PC is more sort of forcing something through a keyhole, so it takes a lot more power to do those things.
The question that I'm really interested in, and the one that I can't seem to answer, is who exactly is this being designed for? Who is Scorpio being targeted at? Who's going to be able to take the most advantage of it? Because speaking of conflicting statements, I've heard from a few different angles as an answer to that question.
I think that the people that will most obviously see a difference when it comes out next year anyway, so we'll use that as sort of a starting point, is people who have 4K televisions. Right now 1080p is sort of the standard, even though most games don't actually run at 1080p, or a lot don't, particularly on Xbox One. And 4K is 4 times the video resolution. So that's demanding an awful lot of a game to be able to run identically to the way it does now, except with 4 times the number of pixels on screen. So I think when the Xbox 360 and PS3 launched back in 2005 and 2006, a lot of people would talk about how they didn't necessarily look as good as they could unless you were playing on an HD TV. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that we're going to find with Scorpio and with whatever new hardware Sony is planning on releasing is that if you don't have a 4K TV, some of the biggest improvements in clarity and sharpness are not going to be clear to you unless you have a television that supports, first of all, 4K, which is sort of the thing that everybody knows about, and second of all, high dynamic range color. which is sort of the new thing that people are pushing, which honestly not every 4K TV has. And high dynamic range color vastly increases the color information that your TV set is receiving and can display, to the point where a lot of people have talked about how 4K can be a little difficult to discern for some people, but high dynamic range color is an improvement that is immediately obvious to anyone who sees it, to the point where companies like Netflix have actually claimed on the record that they believe that high dynamic range color is a bigger game changer than 4K is.
Wow. I'm curious, why do you think sort of instigated this? Obviously, there is this element, since the Xbox launched, that the Xbox One has been behind, certainly from sales side, but also from a hardware side. Like, do you think that it was like which company would blink first, and Sony, the rumors were spreading, and then Microsoft was like, well, we have to do something? Was Microsoft first, and then Sony said we had to do something? How did this play out, you think?
I think that there were a confluence of events. I think that 4K might finally start to see the kind of adoption that people have been predicting for it for a long time, and neither the Xbox One or the PS4 are really capable of doing that. They're not even capable of outputting video signals in 4K, which is information that was really only made obvious in the last year or so, because originally when those consoles launched, there was a suggestion that they would support 4K resolutions with some kind of firmware update, and now that's just very clearly not the case. I think that there is a desire from Microsoft to reset the conversation, so to speak, with regards to power and hardware capability, because that's definitely something that they really got hammered on for the first couple of years of this console generation. And what better way to do that than to release what they are trying to position as the most powerful piece of console hardware that's ever existed. And also, I think obviously Microsoft and Sony both try to keep track of what the other is doing. And I mean, based on conversations that we've had with sources and confirmed with multiple sources, both Microsoft and Sony were moderately familiar with what the other was doing. And Scorpio being at E3 this year was a direct response to the perceived presence of new hardware from Sony. And I think that there's a lot of fairly well-founded speculation that one of the reasons that we didn't see the PlayStation Neo at this conference is because word leaked early that what Microsoft was bringing to the table, albeit a year later than what Sony had been planning with Neo, was significantly more powerful than Sony's new system.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of factors in play. And also, with the sort of merger of Xbox and Windows as an environment, I think that they see it, they being Microsoft in this case, see it as an opportunity to grow, to add a more constantly evolving kind of tech to the console space that hasn't been seen before, because they can do it more easily.
Sure, absolutely. Arthur, we're curious, actually, there have been questions in the comments, including one from Yakov Adam, asking whether the Scorpio, do you think it will be over $500? Do you have any guesses on the price point?
I honestly don't know. I will say that Phil Spencer and the rest of Xbox seemed very, very invested in making sure that the Xbox One S, the console that's releasing in August, that's sort of a stopgap, and we can talk about that more later, had an entry-level $300 price point for one of its models. They feel that price is the most important factor to console adoption, to the point where they think it's actually more important than power.
Wow.
I think
we certainly saw that with the PS4 and Xbox One. That was a big determiner for one of the reasons why PS4 took the lead.
Sure, and I think that the argument could obviously be made that one of the reasons the 360 was as much of a sales success as it was is because it was so aggressively priced against the PlayStation 3. And obviously the Wii is sort of labeled as this massive sales success in part because of its price, although I think that that's a fundamental misreading of that console's success. But nevertheless, the console manufacturers believe that price is a really important component of that. I think that Microsoft got burned pretty bad at a $500 price point. I think that came a generation after Sony got burned pretty bad at a $500 price point. So I think Microsoft would prefer it not be that. I guess it just depends on how much.
Educated guess,
Nail a
Arthur.
number.
We'll hold you to
I
it.
think I think 400 has been demonstrated as the sort of upper limit that the broad consumer audience will accept for a piece of new hardware, as its entry-level price. I think that if Microsoft wants to win as much as it feels like they want to win, based on conversations I've had both with people at Microsoft and sources external to the company, that they will shoot for a price that is acceptable to a broad consumer base.
Hey, Arthur, let me ask you something about
Sure.
the Xbox S, which I want to touch on real quickly before we wrap. If you were talking to somebody, a friend or family member who might be interested in picking up an Xbox One at some point, to whom and would you even recommend an Xbox One S at this point until we have a clearer picture of what Scorpio is and what it's going to cost and what the difference will be between the two?
I think that the Xbox One S strikes me as a entry-level 4K device. And one of the reasons that I think Microsoft felt that it was important that it be $300 for the entry level is that that is actually cheaper than most Ultra HD DVD players, which are starting to come on the market in a bigger way. It is a very good entry-level price for 4K media streaming for Amazon and Netflix and Vudu. I think that people with 4K TVs are making pretty big compromises with the consoles that they own right now because the TV upscaling can have a pretty detrimental effect to gameplay. I know that Fresh, you and I have talked about input latency and stuff like that. So I think it's for people who don't want to wait. I think it's for people who want that shiny new thing, that cool new thing. And I also think that it's going to supplant the existing Xbox One as the entry level for the market.
Sure, but they're still going to keep the existing Xbox One around, though, which seems...
I don't know that they are.
They've said that they have, but maybe you think that's just them lying?
They set the price for a system that is inferior at $279.
Yeah.
It's a system whose entry-level price is $299.
Sure.
I don't even know who's going to buy it at that price. Who's not going to spend that $20 to get a smaller box that's better?
You'll probably get a bigger hard drive. You'll get a bunch of games with the $279 one.
Oh,
I
sure.
don't think they're going to bundle the S with games because they don't need to, because it's the shiny new thing.
Yeah.
And I think that for a lot of people who work at Polygon, it's, oh, shiny cool new thing. I'm going to buy that. I don't need it, but I'm going to buy it. Just like with whatever the Neo ends up being, I will buy it because I'm the guy that does that.
Maybe some people at Polygon will do that, but not me, Arthur. I live a monastic lifestyle free of material desires, which helps me to stay mindful in my own existence. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Arthur.
On the stream here, and thank you to all of you at home who are watching. We have a lot more stuff for you at Polygon.com, YouTube.com/Polygon, Facebook.com/Polygon.
Quite the range.
Quite a range
You
of
take
media.
your pick.
Just start typing Polygon, and you're going to get something that we worked on. But until that time, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you again real soon. And Russ, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for us.
Yes.
Thanks for us.